Welcome to the Crafty Historian Podcast, episode number 32. My name is Rachel and I am studying for a Masters in Public History at the University of York. If you would like to find and follow me, I am on Instagram as Ravenclaw Rachel and Ravelry as RachelRavenclaw. We do have a Ravelry podcast group which you can find if you search the Crafty Historian Podcast in the Groups tab. Today is the 31st of January, so it's been a small while, and yeah, we've got some things to talk about. So we're just going to get right on into it. I preface this by saying thank you for everyone who's returning and welcome to anyone who's new. But the first section I will essentially be reading because I put my thoughts best into written paper notes, and this is not something I feel I can go at on a whim, shall we say. So long-term viewers will be aware that I haven't podcasted in a fairly long time. I think the last time was the beginning of December. So it's been a good 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. There are various reasons for this, one being Christmas, which is always a hectic time with family and things like that. I hope you all had a lovely holiday period. And since I've got back, I am now on placement, which is a bit insane. And I'm also running a dance competition because I need more things in my life. But yes, today I've been like time sucks on what I've had to give to you. I haven't had time to sit down and film in something that's vaguely daylight, but I've carved out some time today because it's time that I did something. That's not really the right way to phrase it. But for those of you that are unaware, there has been the conversation about racism in the knitting community that has been raised over the past month or so. And I have been trying to educate myself in this, and I believe that I can now at least voice some of my where I stand, which is I wholeheartedly support the people who are sharing their experiences. But these stories are not my own, so I urge any viewers who want to learn more to go and seek the voices of others. I cannot tell their stories for them, it is theirs to tell. It may be potentially triggering if you are a person of colour, or yeah, but it's something important that needs to be discussed. And I want to continue to learn, so if, for example, in this section I slip up, please educate me, and I will be monitoring the comments on this video to make sure that nothing untoward goes on down there. So yes, there has been this conversation about the inherent racism in the knitting community. I was aware of a similar movement in the sewing community, run by Romana of the Little Pomegranate. So a lot of us have been boycotting sewing magazines for their lack of representation. And it is definitely high time to sort of raise these issues in the knitting community as well. Because if we don't, no change will happen. And the traditional views will be perpetuated. As has been said time and time again, we cannot drop the ball on this one. And I hope we are still working on improving in the way that we are right now in a year's time. Please don't let this be something that peters out. Yeah, so first things first, to any Black, Indigenous or people of colour, or I don't know how, I know the acronym, I don't know how you say it, so please educate me on that for one, because I want to refer to you correctly. I really hope that this can be a safe space for you. I am incredibly aware that I come from a position of immense privilege myself as a white middle-class woman with the familial financial stability to support my university education. I am sorry if I have acted out on that privilege before. Yes, I'm sorry. So if there's, I'm gonna try to not like stick in that bubble if I can. To that end, I did consider not returning to the podcast this year, as I was beginning to feel that my even being here would perpetuate the idea of knitting for white women of privilege. But after some thoughts and conversations, I really want to be able to use it, even in this small platform, to raise people up and raise this issue, sort of tackle it in a way. Not because everyone can do their part. Just because I'm a small podcast doesn't mean I should be silent on this. There are still people who watch and listen, and they need to know that A, this is a safe space, and B, I will not tolerate racism of any form. So yes, I want to focus on raising people up from who have previously felt neglected, and in addition I want to begin a focus in my history sections about more diverse and underrepresented histories. These are often known as hidden histories or traumatic histories. So I will probably try to still do these in a public history sense, because that is now my official training. But I want to look at topics that people outside of the academic field would not be aware of. So everyone knows about the Romans, the Tudors, and the World Wars. They just do. That's what is taught in schools, at least in Britain. But what about the misrepresentation and the atrocities to Indigenous peoples? What about Eleanor Rickner, a medieval trans woman? Do you even know her name? No. Even swing dance, this society that I do because I enjoy it, pretty much. It has its roots in the communities, in the black communities of Harlem, based in blues, sort of slave music. And it's not talked about very often. It is talked about a little bit. So if you want to learn a little bit more, Alive and Kicking is the Netflix documentary on swing dance, and it's very good, but it's still, there's a lot of white people in it, and it sort of helps perpetuate that sort of idea. So yes, I want to, I'd like to be more inclusive. I'm not sure if that's the right way to go about it. If you have any suggestions, let me know. It's all sort of culminated in my mind and helped me put into words what I wanted to say when we did a seminar on the National Trust, which, you know, sounds a bit weird. But I have been listening to these conversations for the past weeks, and this seminar just fueled me that I needed to say something. We read some articles about the clapback they received when they began to engage with the LGBT history of these properties. So, for example, Felbrigg, which is a Felbrigg Hall, is a house in Norfolk, where I live, which was donated to the National Trust following the fact that the last heir, he was gay and he didn't have any children. It's a part of their history, but when the Trust decided to tackle that issue, people weren't happy. People wanted the National Trust to stick to the history, stick to preserving the buildings. Now, if that sounds like an echo of some of the arguments that have been going on, that's because you're probably, that's what people do. They want things to be in their neat little boxes and contained. But these LGBT histories are part of the story of the building. You cannot preserve history and preserve the building without preserving this side of the history. Indeed, many properties do little to acknowledge that they were essentially built on the profits of slavery. Now, we looked at the National Trust's programming plan, and in 2022 they are going to do a national programme on the legacies of colonialism, which I think has been a long time coming. So this year it's about radical landscapes. Last year it was about women. The year before it was about LGBT. So it's a national focus on histories they want to explore. So radical landscapes are things like political protests. Yes. Where was I? Built on the profits of slavery. History, even if it's traumatic or troublesome, cannot be written out. Those people who claim the Trust is stepping out of their remit by preserving these histories are so deeply entrenched in a romanticist nostalgia that they cannot accept that everything has a political aspect that should be discussed and learnt from. And this is definitely something we can apply to knitting. So those people who whine, asking us to stick to our knitting, clearly have got themselves stuck in that same romanticist headspace. A dangerous place to be. This is an issue that cannot be glossed over or written out of history. To do so would be belittle those who have experienced this firsthand. We need to acknowledge and learn from it. So, I hope that makes clear my standpoint on this conversation. And yes, please reach out if I have in any way said something that's maybe not right. As I said, I want to educate and learn myself. I'm working on some workbooks at the moment and examining my own position of privilege and trying to make this a better space for everyone. So yeah, that said, if you don't agree with me, please leave, because this needs to be a thing that people know about, talk about, and yeah, we can't stand by as racism occurs in front of us. Equally, so we've become pretty sort of not necessarily accustomed, but at least people are now more accepting of LGBT people in the knitting community, from what I've seen. Ableism generally isn't, well, I don't know. This is the thing, I only really interact with the knitting community online. I've only been to one knitting festival. I haven't seen how this manifests in real life. But yeah, if if I do go somewhere and I see it, I want to be able to have the knowledge to call it out. I mean, we should all call it out. And yeah, we had some issues. That's by the by. But yes, minorities. That's a horrible word, but we're talking about Black, Indigenous, people of colour at the moment. We can't let that disappear. We need them to have their voice, and we can't tone police them. Which, yeah, I'm now wondering if I've made no sense whatsoever, but it's a topic that requires lots of unpacking and listening and learning, and that is what I'm going to try and do. So this is the thing, I don't really just want to say, and now we'll move on to the knitting, but I could easily sit and talk about this for a good hour or so, but we need to build a better place in this world, and we can only do it if we all work together. See? I'm going to run the podcast slightly differently for the time being. As I've said, my time is limited. So instead I'm going to do a sort of January roundup. So there will have been projects that I finished in December, but because it's been so long, I'm just going to ignore them for now. They can go away. So this will be what I've worked on in January. And yeah, thinking about the sort of things I want to project. I think everything is made from stash, which is always good. And we'll start with the item I finished in January, which was my burgundy Osterman step socks. So here's the second one. I just didn't put it on the blocker because I dropped a stitch all the way down here and I need to go and sew it in. So yes, this is an Osterman step which I got from loveKnitting.com. I just realised if I lean forward you don't see my face, so yeah. And it's this lovely burgundy and grey mould self-striping pattern. I did them toe up using this sort of burgundy sheepies Invicta Extra for the toes, heels and cuff. And yeah, I did it toe up with a toe up heel flap and gusset. There's a little hole there which I hadn't noticed, so I'll have to sew that in. There's not a hole on this side, and I really like this construction. I believe the pattern I use, it has a really long name. It's something like the vanilla toe up sock with heel flap and gusset. I don't remember. It was free on Ravelry. And I'm actually using sock blockers for once. So these are my new sock blockers that I got. They are Woodico, which is a shop on Etsy, and they laser cut their sock blockers. Yeah, I think they're based in Ukraine, but the shipping and it didn't take that long, so I'm really happy with these socks. I've wanted a pair of burgundy socks for ages. It's kind of my colour, and I've just got to sew in some ends and I'll be done, which is very, Very nice indeed. So yeah, I think this is now the way I like to do my socks. She says that she's about to show you top down socks, but toe up is definitely my favourite method because there's no guesswork then to when you've got to put toes and heels and how much yarn you need. I prefer toe up. Yeah, there's a picture. There's a better idea of what the sock blockers look like. They arrived and I thought they're huge, but then I realised I've got huge feet. So yes, that is that. Moving on to the things I have been working on. I have a hoe, and this is the Clark socks by, I can't remember the name, but they did the rounds last year, I believe. The lighting is awful. But you can see it's this cable sock pattern, and I'm using Wendy Rome 4-ply, which I bought a while back. I'm going to take it down. They're a little tight, but I think that's the cable. There we go. So there's this lovely simple cable going down the back. You can see the yarn a bit better there. It's the sort of purpley burgundy tweedy. Yeah, not tweedy. It's sort of mottled, natural. And then this is the lovely cable down the front. So tactile. I love it. And I used a heel flap and gusset for the heel. I don't know why to go up. There we go. So yeah, this lovely sock is actually pretty addictive to knit, which I hadn't expected, because it's a plain sock. This is probably the plainest sock for myself. No, this is the plainest sock I've ever knit for myself. I'm usually a full-on self-striping gal, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I have yet to cast on the second one, so I really hope I don't get second sock syndrome, because these are gorgeous and I kind of love them. I will say the yarn is not softest. The fabric feels like you could build a house out of it. It feels very sturdy with little give. So hopefully that means they'll wear well. But yeah. So yeah, got to cast the second one on. Yeah, so I did, it's done, the pattern's done top down. I did a wedge toe and I knit them on 2.25mm needles. Ta-da! Now I also have a second hoe, a sock that was finished. Bear with me as I put it on my sock blocker. Does this make me a proper podcaster now? She says as she struggles to put socks on a sock blocker. Yeah, these are my, I'm calling them my ducky socks, but the yarn is West Yorkshire Spinners in the Mallard colourway. Did I do these top down? Yeah, I did. Like, did I do these top down or toe up? I'm knitting the second ones. I actually have the second one. It's in this bag, which I'll talk about in a minute. But yes, this is knit top down, 2x2 rib, and another heel flap and gusset, and a wedge toe at the end there. And I love this yarn so much. For those of you that don't know, the University of York is overrun with geese because we have the first and third largest plastic bottom lakes in Europe. Um, so geese and ducks outnumber the students, which is saying something. I've seen a duck get on the bus and get off on the opposite campus. Because why not? So these will be my University of York socks. I'm calling them my ducky socks at the moment, but yeah. I will wear these and remember the crazy duck shenanigans. Being chased by geese is not fun. And fun fact, our Easter holidays, I'm not actually home for the actual Easter weekend because it's not based on Easter, it's based on when the ducks are mating. Because they don't want us near that. Funny that. So yeah. I have a home and I'm keeping it in this bag, which I think was one of the first I made. And it's got a little Harry Potter in his Triwizard like uniform on the zip because Mum bought us one of those mystery packs and that was what I got. And this is the interesting thing about these socks, because I'm knitting them on 9-inch circulars. I almost said 9mm circulars then. It's like, that'd be crazy for a pair of socks. But yes. Ooh. And I found out that actually these work really well with me. I naturally hold my needles like this anyway. It's a bit weird not having my pinkies to hold on to anything. But yeah, apparently I knit like a fairy princess. So this is fine by me. I just knit away. And it means you don't have to worry about the cables. So these are actually 2.5mm. They're Knit Pro Symphonies. I think I'm doing them on 56 stitches. But I've tried the other one on and it fits really well. And yeah. So this is what we've got so far of the second sock, and it's hold your horses. It's not a Sheepies Invicta Extra for toes and heels. I am using Signet Woolrich 4-ply, which I made Liv's socks and hat out of for Christmas. So I've got this left, and hopefully that'll be enough to do the heels and toes. And I'll have a lovely pair of ducky socks for the new year. So that's living in here. And I'm going to put these down here, which is in fact where my washing basket is, because otherwise everything's going to get a bit crowded on the table. What shall I show next? Right, I cast on a shawl because I've wanted to for ages, using these two balls of yarn. So this is Beehive Yarn's White Way of Delight, and this is Philly's yarn, I believe in the Calcutta colourway. But both of these are dyers who come from York. I bought this one online because I saw it and wanted it because it's out of Green Gables. I bought this one at the local yarn shop day this year, last year, so 2018. Both these lovely ladies were at the York Makery, which is closing, which is kind of sad because that was my local yarn shop and I loved it. But full respect to Kaylee, it's hard to run a business, so yeah, sad, but I will have a memory of the York knitting community in this shawl. These are the two yarns I'm working with, and this is what I've got so far. I'm doing, the pattern I'm using is called the Craic shawl. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it, but it's by Jennifer Tepper Heverly, I think it's, so it's not something that I've seen someone else knit. I searched for crescent shawls because I like the look of them. I don't like having a point, I like having a scoop. Yeah, and it's something that I just came across. And this has been on my queue, I think, for good 9 months. Because I went and bought this specifically so that I knew I could knit this shawl. So this is where I'm at the moment. So we've got this lovely tonal speckle with some stripes coming up. I'm moving on to a textured section in the brown. So yeah, it's not something that I'm picking up regularly, but I know I want it, so yeah, I will just enjoy when I need that little bit of garter. Because that's the other thing, I need to pick up the pattern to do it because it's always changing. So, whizzing down this first section, absolutely fine. But I need to read what's going on in the second section before I pick it up again. But yeah, I've got a little shawl on the go. And these are, I'm using 3.75mm needles. So yeah, these. I'm now, yeah, hopefully that will get done at some point. I'm just keeping it in, again, another bag that I made relatively early. It's just this sort of roses canvas bag with a stripy lining. That can go down there too. Right. I got all of my blanket squares to 6x6. Yay! So now I'm working on getting them to 7x7. And as you can see, I'm halfway through a square here. But this is what it looks like at the moment. So for those of you who don't know, I knit my mitered square blanket in quadrants, and there's 2 sets of repeats because they will mirror each other. So this is one of the quadrants, and there's another one that looks identical. I can't remember the last thing I showed you, but I'll go around. Yeah, so this came from the swap. I think I have done that because it has 3 Nora George yarns in a row and then a swap here. So I'll go through these because I know these are new. This here is a Mothy and the Squid. This was from my advent calendar from the Yarn Lab UK. Can't remember the colourway name. This was a Nora George yarns. This is Stone in the Mirror. This was from my advent calendar by All Wool That Ends Wool last year. And this is another one from the Yarn Lab. So I'm just, yeah, knitting away on that. It's a nice mindless thing that I can pick up now and again. And yeah, it was great over Christmas, just knitting away in my corner. So that is that. The last knitting project I have to show was one that I put up on my Instagram stories last night because I finished the colour work, and surprisingly a surprising amount of people responded to that and sort of supportively, going, oh my goodness, that's cool. So I'm knitting a Captain Marvel jumper with the aim to wear it to when I go and see the film. I believe it comes out in March. So yeah, this is my jumper. the biggest nerd jumper I've ever... well, no, it's the biggest nerd thing I've ever knit. And it's amazing. Oh. So yes, I am using the brick pattern, which is the pattern I used to knit my first jumper. I'm using it in DK. All of these yarns I found in my stash. So they're Stylecraft Life, so it's a 75% acrylic, 25% wool, but it's using up the stash. I charted the pattern myself from pictures of her costume, and yeah, I mean, it will at least cover the boobs now. I'm going for oversized, so I can't remember exactly what size I'm going for, but it's definitely above my measurement, so that there will be room for me to, you know, eat popcorn in it. So yeah, I'm so excited. The one thing is, don't ask me what the ends look like, because I will cry. Like, oh boy. That'll be that's a job for future Rachel. Dear future Rachel, I apologise, but you're going to have an awesome jumper. So yeah, I'm a massive nerd, and I don't care. Captain Marvel jumper, it's a thing that's happening. So yeah, I've split for the sleeves. The sleeves will all be in blue. You can't see there, but I calculated it so the split would happen just after I changed colour. There's no colour work that needs to be done anymore. It's just stock. I'm not doing any waist shaping either, so it's just stockinetting the round all the way down. This is my lifeline, because there's no way I want to rip back and potentially mess up all of this. But I actually knit all of that yesterday. So that's about 2 inches. So yes, my nerd jumper is a thing that's happening. Yeah, the colour work looks a little wonky on camera. So we'll figure out how I deal with that when I get to it. I love it. Oh, I sent a picture to my mum, but obviously there was no scale, so she asked if it was for my bear, and now I want to knit one for my bear too. Ta-da! Slightly insane, me? You know, I don't care. My friends are also nerds, and the minute I told them of my plan, they just went, yes, you have to do it. So I'm doing it. Fun time. I believe that's all of the knitting I've got at the moment, but it's not all of the yarny stuff that I've got at the moment, because I did buy a loom. It's not a big loom. I've got it here actually. Oh, it is just a frame loom from Hobbycraft. This is horrific. I promise you I will never produce something like that. That looks awful. I mean, even the stuff on the sides look better than that. So yeah, it's just a wooden sort of frame loom, but the top and the bottom are in dowels, so you can actually wind longer than the frame. So I started off, I did a few tests to start off. So this was my very first piece of weaving. A bit dodgy, These are all DK acrylic scraps that I'm going to show you for my practices. There's this one, which, you know, not great. But I was sort of getting the hang of it by the end. I can't remember which way it was up, but yeah, it's getting more even. So then I thought, yeah, let's be fun. So I did a 2-colour one, which gives this amazing sort of houndstooth fabric. I'm pretty much into bookmarks at the moment, in case you can tell. So I'm making loads of them, and so people will be getting bookmarks for like birthday and Christmas. Well, maybe not Christmas. I hope to be better than bookmarks by Christmas. So yeah, and then I tried another one to just figure out what the ideal yarn to use is. So these are a couple of Aran ones. So this is probably the ideal yarn for the loom. Yarns. So there's that. And then I made myself a coaster because I wanted to do something different than a bookmark and try doing this sort of pattern, which is really nice, sort of casual check, and is so effective. I love it. I love it. So yes, I've been trialing that, all of which accumulated in like a mad moment, essentially. And I decided, you know what, so if you're my mother, don't watch, go away. It was my mum's birthday and I was meant to go home, but she had the flu, so I didn't. But I wove her a scarf. Oh. It's a bit wonky, but hey, my mum's used to getting the first things that I make. She dealt with everything I made when I was 5. But yeah, isn't this cool? Oh, I'm so happy. So I used as the warp, it was a burgundy that someone had gifted to me, but I wasn't going to knit with because I think it was acrylic based. And this, so the weft, which I believe is the horizontal one, was actually a worsted weight skein that I had won in a giveaway from Madeline of Kingfisher Knits. It was a knit crate one. I can see it, it's over there, but it's this sort of red, white, blue and grey variegated, and it looks so nice. It's potentially a bit short, but hey, it'll keep your neck warm at the very least. Again, you've lost my head. But yeah. Basically what I've learned is next time I need to warp longer. This was already like 1.5 meters. But hey, it would suit a child with a smaller neck than me. Oh, that's quite nice. Yeah. And then, yeah, I haven't done much to the tassels at the end. I don't really know what to do with those at the moment. So yeah, they're sticking, they're hanging out like that. And if my mum doesn't want it, I'll have it, because it's really pretty. So yeah, that's weaving. Who knows, I might be doing some more of that. So yeah, the final thing is I've been doing a little bit of sewing. I'm currently in the process of making costumes for our swing dance event. So yeah, they're all a bit of a mess at the moment. I really need to hone in. I've got a week to do that, so that'll be fun. So So yeah. The other thing I'm making, oh, why did it fall off? Is a pair of pyjamas. Pyjamas are one of those things when, like, yeah, it's the very first thing you make. Can you tell I've got a colour scheme? But yeah, I never made pyjamas. I sort of went straight in for socks and things. Not socks, skirts. So I can easily make a skirt, a dress, a shirt, things like that, but trousers baffle me. So I decided to make a pair of pyjamas. This fabric was actually a sale duvet cover in Primark. There are ends everywhere. Which I just cut up. And so I'm using the, sorry lamb, Tilly and the Buttons Love at First Stitch book. I can't remember the name of the pattern. But I'm altering it slightly because I'm doing French seams. Ooh. Look. So professional. So all of the ends are encased, and all I've got to do is figure out which one's the front and which one's the back. I believe this is the front here, the bit you're seeing. Stick in a couple of buttonholes and then fold down the waistband and thread the waist tie and hem the legs, and I'll have a nice pair of pyjamas. This is a brushed cotton and it's lovely. I've got enough to make another pair of pyjamas in case, you know, one of my friends wants some, or my mother wants a pair, because that always happens. She now wants a pair of Clark socks because I'm knitting them. Like, okay, mother, let me just sort out what I'm doing first. But I'm kind of not on it. I don't want to gift knit at the moment, but maybe pyjamas are the way to go. I'm using the largest size as well because you want your trousers baggy and when you're your pyjamas, don't you? Or at least I do. So yes, that is all of my craftiness for January. Yeah, it's given it's a month. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but it's happened. We've got through the Mondays of months, okay? All uphill from here. So yeah. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you learnt some things and enjoyed seeing what I've been working on. And please feel free to get in contact with me about anything that I've spoken about. And I hope you all have a lovely February. And I shall see you all potentially at the end of February. Bye!